Hi, this is Frank Mulder, or Mr. Daft Prawn on Instagram, and you are listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid.
If they don't go for this, we're gonna have to get out of here pretty quick, Chewie.
Everything's gonna be all right, kid.
You found the Rebel Base Card Podcast.
She may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts, kid.
I'm your host, Greg McLaughlin.
Have I made a few bad decisions? Sure.
We talk about cards, collecting Star Wars, and to people in the Star Wars community.
Don't worry, we're gonna meet up with some friends of mine.
Look for special episodes called The Breakfast Pack, talking about your favorite Star Wars shows.
We will never have a better chance than this.
All right, let's get started.
Well, perhaps it is time to begin again.
Welcome back, or if this is your first episode, welcome aboard. My name is Greg McLaughlin, and this is the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Special show is my guest is Martin Nolan. He is Star Wars Card Trader's Content Product Manager, and we had a chance to talk about the app's 10th anniversary. It's amazing when you think about an app on your phone that's been around for 10 years, and it's an app that I have been in pretty much daily since it first launched. And you can't really say that about a lot of apps that aren't like, your banking app or email or something like that. This is an app that, a lot of stuff, there's a graveyard of apps and games and all kind of things that were really popular, but to have something stick around that long and also be a part of your collection. We all have shelves and things at home that we go home to, and that's our comfort area, and we collect, whether it's figures, whether it's comics, Funko Pops, what have you, but this is a collection that kind of moves around with you, and it's an app that continually evolves. And so it was fun to kind of talk with him about not only the things that have happened over the years, what's going to happen, and maybe just a little bit about how the sausage is made and all the passionate folks that are behind it. So I hope you get a lot out of this episode and this interview. It was a real treat to get a chance to talk to Martin, and I hope you enjoy it. All right, we'll have more right after this.
This is Jonesy from the Cantina Cast, and you're listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. And everyone wants his tinfoil hat back.
We're in attack position now, sir.
Hold here.
We're not going to attack.
I have my orders from the Emperor himself. He has something special planned for him. We only need to keep him from escaping.
For me, Star Wars Card Trader is entertainment, and it's a lifestyle choice. I'll make no pretenses about it. But for someone like yourself, Martin, like it's my job. It's your job, and it is one of those where everybody was talking about the work from home right during COVID and all that, where it's like, how do you turn off? I think it's got to be one step further, not only because the app is on you with you 24/7, but I don't even know how you would turn yourself off or take a break from the app, because you've been doing this for a while now.
Right. I mean, that is a good point. I do. That was something, especially in 2020. I had to consciously learn how to log off, because you're right. And we were putting stuff out every day. We put stuff out on the weekends. I'm in there checking everything on the weekends. I'm making sure everything's going well with every release. So yeah, it's some of it's just compartmentalizing. Like, I need to be on for 20 minutes here, and then I can mentally log off. But yeah, I definitely did have to create a dividing line for myself, for sure. But I mean, it is also nice to have it with you, be able to check certain things on the go, or be in there collecting while I'm out and about if I need to be, especially on the weekends. So it's a blessing and a curse, I feel like. But it's been part of my life for so long now. I've been on the Star Wars app since 2018. So it's just woven itself into the fabric of my life over all these years.
Well, and I've also said that the Card Trader app is the collection that you take with you. I certainly couldn't take I just recently passed 300,000 cards, which, by the way, sounds like a lot. I know folks in here who have way more than I do.
The numbers are staggering. We do monuments every year, and it's just like how the People really collect so much, and it's really incredible. I'm in there every single day, and I can't touch what so many people are doing.
No, definitely shout out to the Monuments folks, because that is on a level. And I think, I know when we last talked, I think I went back to like the 2022 Digicon one where, Monuments has kind of been in, but hoarding and those things, I think, I don't think they were a mechanic or something that when the apps were first put out was probably something that people thought, what are they doing? But it is certainly something that is organic, to the digital apps.
Yeah, and it has absolutely come from the digital collectors too, right? This was not a Topps initiative to begin with. This was something that the fans started doing and wanted and sort of demanded that Topps deliver on. So it's pretty neat in that way too, right? That the community sort of organically created this very unique element of digital collecting that I think especially in the Star Wars card trade, where we have the other apps. We've got Bunt, Disney Collect, Marvel Collect, Slam, but I think Star Wars, there's a particular affinity for that sort of more hoard collecting.
One thing I will start with, and I'll bounce around. I was scribbling down all these different topics. It's I could talk your ear off for forever. I won't, because that would be the first and last time. But first off, I wanted to say congratulations on 10 years with the app, and I loved when the design for the splash page came out, and I think it debuted late last year.
Right. Yeah.
But having worked, I worked at Apple. At an Apple retail store for a baker's dozen years, and seeing the app store and the apps in it, to have an app that's not like Chase Mobile or City where you're going to have it and you're going to keep it, to have an entertainment app be around for more than a few years, and you could go back to things like Flappy Bird or like the flight games and all that had this massive appeal. Even Monument Valley, which was an amazing app. I think there's a few different versions, but to have these apps be now around, Bunt has been around for 12 years, and Star Wars Card Trader's hitting 10. That is an achievement. I don't even know if the originators of the app thought that they were going to get that far.
Right. Yeah. It is pretty monumental. We're all very excited about it. And especially the sort of app that we're not a game that you just set in motion and do updates to. We release cards every single day, and all of those cards are made by a team of people. So there's the human element to constantly creating these cards and making this app fresh and new, that I think is probably more labor intensive than a lot of apps that you'll find, but in the end I think helps it stay relevant and helps us grow with the fans and adapt to what's going on in the world and what's going on within the app as well.
And also seeing some of the changes that have happened. When Star Wars Card Trader launched in 2015, it was, and really for the first couple years, and I would say you could probably say the same with when Huddle, I think around this time, Huddle comes a little around this time or a little after Walking Dead. These apps were primarily, you'd log in, you get 25,000 credits, you'd flick through maybe a half dozen or more in a store, you'd see your collection. It was a very simple app. And it led to a type of engagement, which, like in the aforementioned people like hoarding and doing things, the trading mechanism, I wouldn't say was there pretty early, but seeing the evolution into, and I want to say probably around 2021, where you got you started seeing them pop up in the other apps. It's become a lot more engaging. But at the same time, every time there is a change or this evolution, I'm sure it months, weeks, years in the making, because once people have even credit skin in the game, even though it's digital, now I've had a lot of these cards for 10 years. It is something where it becomes something that I can't physically touch, but I kind of own, so to speak. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There's that connection that that people have developed and we saw it a lot with the anniversary, like people posts in the app and posts online of people saying, I remember where I was when I collected this, 10 years. Wow. That makes me think about when my kid was this age. We saw a lot of that, which was really exciting to see. And you're right about like the evolution of what the apps have been, because, we're always trying new things. And like the event system, that was definitely a big thing for us that we incorporated, I think it was 2019 maybe when we got that. Maybe it was 2020. And that's, a new way for collectors to engage with their cards, to earn new cards. But at its core, like we can basically never get away from, we need to release new, cool cards that people want to collect, like desirable, good-looking collectibles that people can go in there and get and hit on odds. Because, anytime we're not doing that, we see it. Like we know the numbers. People are not as happy, right? And they're not in there. So like that is at its core what this app is, what our apps are. And just finding new ways to deliver on that promise and also create new engagement, especially for newer users, right? And there's that lower threshold to digital collecting. You don't have to spend $150. You don't have to have, I live in a small apartment. Like I don't have room for an extensive physical collection. And I think that's the case for a lot of people. You don't have the time, you don't have the space. And so you can be a part of it. You can be a part of a collecting community that has grown and changes over time, all just, from your phone.
And it's interesting too, because even if someone hasn't ever collected physical cards, which may or may not, it's interesting that, when the app was first created, or these apps are created, you have to introduce that mechanism of chance and the algorithms. And I am kind of curious, this is a question I do kind of get on occasion. What determines whether something's going to be a 1 of 5, 1 of 20, 1 of 15, and do sometimes the folks, Brendan and his team, even all those folks kind of go, oh man, they're never going to pull that, or oh, how come that's only a 1 out of 3? I'm kind of curious how sometimes the introduction of the algorithm of how these things are pulled, and then who gets what.
Right. The odds. I mean, there's no science to it. It is essentially you do not want someone to have to, spend tons of money or some impossible task to get something that we don't think is worth it. Right. So like you want to make sure that those are really premium, cards, and then it's making sure that it feels as special to get as the card is special. So that's definitely a part of it, especially for original sets. For say when we get a digital translation of a physical set, some of that is determined by like the 1s and the 5s. We'll use the same variants in that way as the physical set will. But yeah, for the original sets, it's it's sort of, what do we think the appetite is for this set? There's a lot of factors that go into that determination. Basically, what do we think? What sort of opens do we expect on this pack? And trying to make sure, because a big part of our strategy is trying to make sure the card counts end up where we might want them. We don't LE every single card, obviously. But you don't want a legendary that gets up to 400 card count, because it doesn't feel like a legendary. So it's sort of calibrating odds to the expectations for demand is a big part of that as well. We don't get too much as far as Evie and Brandon and the design team. No, they don't fight us too much on odds. I mean, I think obviously you want people to be able to get with them. But Brandon will say like, well, I just spent $15 to get this card this weekend or something sometimes. But yeah, they're not too much pushback, but that we do try to make as much as we can available to as many people as we can, while at the same time maintaining some exclusivity, because that's part of what brings people to collecting is that special feeling of getting something that that few others were able to get.
And that balance of having cards that are easier to get, that have a medium level of difficulty. End of the week Gilded gets a little rough around this neighborhood. But I don't mind having different ways to collect. And this is something I talk about on the physical side quite a bit, where there is a balance, and it can tip the scales one way or the other. But I think over the years in the app, whether you're free to play or whether that ship sailed for me a long time ago. However, I like it that there's a little something for everybody to chase at different levels, yet none of it really feels like it's a walled garden that you don't really get into here, or you don't even see here unless unless you're at that level.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the feeling we hope to achieve. I don't think we always do. Sometimes the odds feel harder from a collector's perspective. Sometimes you're like, well, there's been nothing special for a week or something like that, right? Like it's a constant dance that we're having to do to try to deliver on all fronts, which is kind of what's fun about working here, about making these cards is like chasing that balance and making sure that there's something for everyone in the app, and something for everyone already in the app, and something that brings new people to the app too, right? Because we're always looking to grow as well.
I also have liked over the years, and especially of the last couple, that the physical side makes its way into the app at even greater speed. And you could look at it from the standpoint of like, well, it's just a copy of the physical. But one thing I've always appreciated is the fact that a lot of the variants in the physical, a lot of the autographs, I'm not pulling a Mark Hamill auto, every other, you got to go through a lot of cases. But, the casual collector or the serious collector can look forward to seeing a lot of the variants, a lot of the big inserts that a lot of the physical sets enjoy, and go, that's pretty cool, or that's a variant that I won't see or I'm not going to get. You might get there might be a purple one that I might have to go through a lot of boxes to get, but I might get something in the app. But I love seeing that physical that is available for folks, the casual and all that, so they can actually kind of see what's going on the physical side.
Totally, and that's one of the things that we try to provide is a glimpse into what it's like to collect these physical boxes. And maybe you want to go buy one, maybe you're like, okay, this is all I can afford right now, but definitely we want to show people what's going on with the physical sets. And yeah, we're getting them in close to when the physical one's released. The thing about getting the physical cards into the app is that there does not exist a digital version of every physical card. So we still have to make these cards based on like the printing files. We still have to produce the variants, make sure the VFX, if it's a chrome, if it's a refractor, and then we have to go through Lucasfilm again with all of those cards and make sure it looks good to them too. So yeah, the process is not as simple as take what exists and upload it into the app, because we've got to make sure that we've translated it to the digital version in a way that actually represents what the physical version is. So yeah, it is a fairly involved process, but definitely we see those sets are very popular in the app, of course, and rightfully so, because the physical side of the business does such a great job, and yeah, we hope to be that for people. Like, it's hard to get to see all the cards unless you're watching a ton of breaks on YouTube. This is really the only place you get to preview them. So that's definitely one thing that we we enjoy providing for people.
And over the years, especially being able to kind of manipulate it, either whether you move your phone or you can move the card within to see things like the chromium, and that comes to play even when I'm looking at Topps Digital, or Topps and WWE. Renewed their deal, and they released the Topps Chrome in the app, which was great because not only did the app come back, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, which is awesome, but also you can see the cards. So like the Star Wars, all the Chrome effects you're seeing, you're really catching a glimpse of what the card looks like without having to worry about is the card curled because of the Chrome paper. But that's aside for see how nerdy I can get. But seeing things like the high tech, which is a transparent acetate type card, or later on, now it would be trickier with something like Masterwork, which I think comes out in April. I think I just saw, but where it's a thicker card, but still these are cards, like I said, that they're not coming out to the Targets and Walmarts. These are Topps does this direct to either shop or consumer, but it's still just great to see them. But then you have the added bonus of in your app with the design team to be able to make cards that the physical side just could not do. Whether it's with animation, whether it's with cuts, whether it's with embedding a little bit of video or things like that. Those are some of the things where I see the app really shine.
Mm-hmm. Well, we appreciate that because that's where we invest so much of our time and energy. I mean, just with the new VFX capabilities that we've had over the last couple of years, I think that started in 2022. But yeah, the motion cards, the parallax cards, things like that are you can only do in digital, and then even things that allow us the lower lift to get a card into the app rather than to get it printed into a big box product on the physical side. We can cater to a lot of different parts of the audience, basically, right? Like we've had, we did a High Republic book club. We've done, we can do some of the more niche elements of the Star Wars galaxy, and just, not to be like a huge giant blockbuster of a set, but just, to appeal to the people who really care about those cards. And then with the shows too, something we do digitally is we're able to, with the Disney Plus shows, get those episode cards out there quickly, in ways that isn't really happening physically. So yeah, there's definitely some major advantages to the digital side and some fun that we can have and do have with making those digital exclusives.
And I would say that Topps Digital really took the mantle because Topps Physical were doing the online weekly sets. I should know if I ever really want to scare myself and look at my purchase history. Oh, I could, there's some a trail of tears right there. However, for whatever reason, when they kind of stopped doing it, it was great because we didn't get, Ahsoka, Acolyte, Skeleton Crew, Bad Batch cards, but we got them in the app, and you got the weekly ones, and it really, I think, it would be interesting, especially because at that point it's just us and Lucasfilm what they gave us. But it really had to be kind of exciting because you guys got to see and produce cards that we could go back and have those moments in those different digital show or in the Disney Plus shows that that was a great choice for a card or this or that. That was where it was all you.
Yeah, and it's been great to do those, and we're planning to do it again here with Andor season 2 coming up. And it's fun to do the watch parties. We've been doing those premiere watch parties to get people in there on the season premieres and to talk to people and to gauge, how people are feeling about a new show and to see the excitement as it goes throughout the season. And I'm glad you've appreciated them as well. And you mentioned high tech. I did just want to mention that replicating the acetate cards was really hard for the app, and our designer Edwin, who worked on that set, would appreciate you mentioning that because I think he said that was the hardest physical reproduction he's had to try to, to get right. So I'll pass along that at least you recognize that.
And I also just shout out to Evie, because anytime I mention it on X, like I'll talk about like, hey, I really love to design. I'll get this little hashtag from Brandon saying, "Yay, Evie," and I'm like, the design team, and like I said, it's Brendan's been nice enough to give some of his time, have really championed not only stuff like getting the designs for for cards that we're not going to see anywhere else, but also organizing, for example, the artists that do the digital Galaxy. And I went through, I was trying to figure out, because I've talked to about a handful of them, and I lost count. Like, you want to talk about like putting together a sheet of this, I think I got 21 that I could come up with. Everyone from, Darren Pepe to Robert Jimenez, Chris Penix, Annie Wu, Steve Cupp. These are ones that even have done more recent, Uzuri Art, Dermot Power. I mean, I go on, and Derek Laufman and David Rabbit, Daz Tibbles, Balance Sheet, which, by the way, I always have to look twice. Amazing artist, but then I'm like, okay, just make sure I got it. But I mean,
there are certain things you don't want him to do because it looks so realistic.
But what a stable of artists that that it's just really a joy, and also because a lot of them are on the socials, and I do get to interact with. It's so fun because I get to see, and here's something I keep pounding, like, this is stuff you're not going to see elsewhere, especially now that Galaxy has become such a flagship product on the physical side. It's tough. You can still get it secondary market, all that kind of stuff, but here's stuff you're not seeing, and there's so much work. Plus, sometimes you get to see some of, like, on the other side, sometimes you get to see, like, with Daniel Gavar doing the speed paintings, or some of the sketch ones, you're seeing the work in progress one way or the other, and this is just something that you don't see on the physical side. Right.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned speed paintings, just because, we were just talking about things you can only do digitally. And for anyone who's not familiar, the speed paintings it's a card where you see him paint the Star Wars character, and it's all sped up and it happens fast. But yeah, and that came from Dan Govar. I'm pretty sure was his idea to be able to, like, I do these types of paintings, I record them. Do you think we could get it on the card? Because, I'm already doing this art for the app. So yeah, and that was great because we worked with Lucasfilm to make sure that we're adhering to all of, their rules around that sort of card. So that has been really exciting, but it's really for our original art. It's obviously all credit to the artist, but also secondarily, it's Brandon's doing. He's the art director for the app, and he's coordinating all these different art pieces. And with Galaxy, it can be 10 different artists for one set. So it's months of emails back and forth, get a sketch, and then that goes to Lucasfilm, and then we can go to production on the full art. So, every single original art card is, a labor of love, I suppose, but it's a big it's a big lift to produce those cards, and it's really worth it just for the cards themselves, right? Like, just to have this art that wouldn't exist and doesn't exist anywhere else. And you can get it on your app, and for the credits, for the free credits that you get in app, which is pretty fun. Yeah, it's that's one of the things that we're proudest of, and happy to be not only continuing, but really we've been scaling it up over these last couple of years.
Oh, it's one of my most favorite things, and you do sort of talk about Tops's and your relationship to Lucasfilm, and I'm sure. It probably blows your mind to be able to talk from them. It's always like seeing an email back or seeing that, and you're going, because these are different entities, whether it's the WWE, whether it's Major League Baseball, Disney, Marvel, they're all kind of under the same banner anymore, but each has its own requirements, and it does require a high level of relationship building, constant. You can't take anything for granted. Things could change, we used to be able to do that. Well, we can't do it anymore. Personnel change. And so it can't be understated how important, and this has got to be something that, if you're losing any sleep, and I hope you aren't, this has got to be the one that you is first and foremost in your mind, because they're providing you a lot of the assets.
Yeah, absolutely. They have been wonderful to work with, and you're totally right about the relationship building, and the longer we're on the app, the longer we're dealing with, you know, the same people over there who are helping us, the more we were able to try to do. A great example of that collaboration and that relationship with Lucasfilm was Merchant and Smuggler from last year, which is based on what Topps has been doing for a long time with Alan and Ginter. And just, we really had to go back and forth to make sure that we are setting things within the Star Wars galaxy, making sure it feels Star Wars while also getting some of that Alan and Ginter feel into the cards as well. And they were so great with that. And you know, it ended up, I mean, so happy with the cards, but it was fun to come up with and to figure out how we navigate that. So yeah, they've, you know, you can't say enough for the things that they've championed and helped us do as this strange digital collecting app where we're constantly trying to do new things and constantly coming to them like, hey, could we do something like this? And they've been really great to work with.
You know, some sets could come to life very quickly, but what is the range of time it takes from idea to launching in the app? It's got to be a huge range, and you know, is it something where it's like, yeah, this is something that's going to take X amount of, you know, days, weeks, months, and some like, hey, we got to turn this out in a week or two?
Yeah, we try to give ourselves the months rather than trying to churn things out in a week or two, because, you know, it's not all you know, putting together, designing the cards is just one part of it. It's getting the right characters on there. It's you know, putting it into our management system within the app to build the set itself. So yeah, we have timelines that we set. So it's like, okay, if we need something by this date, we're doing this part of the process on this date. So it's about a 2-month turnaround on sets, a little bit longer. We give ourselves more time for original art, more time for a large original box set. Also, more time for the physical boxes because, like I said, it's hard to get those into the app. But yeah, we set the timer for a couple of months, and if that window is tighter, sometimes it's tighter, but we're hoping to be as far out as we can with everything. That's you know, that's the thing that keeps Brandon and I up at night is, you know, every week we're meeting for 2 hours. Like, all right, what are we working on now? All right, oh, we don't have anything for this July date that, you know, we thought we would do this set, but now we can't get that done. So yeah, it's a lot of that, making sure that we're planned as far out as possible and able to deliver.
Over the years, you know, everything from introducing, you know, crystal currency to marathons, seasons, watch parties, all these things, if we've watched the app grow. One of the most recent evolutions in my mind outside of seasons was the physical redemption card for a box of Galaxy, which to me was a monumentous thing, because now you are actually polling for something that could translate into some physical, something that, you know, there. As you mentioned before, Topps Digital and Topps Physical are separate beings. There's a whole thing when you're going into anything physical. But how did that feel, and how did that work? Did it work out the way you guys were intending it?
Yeah, I mean, it was really exciting for us because it's something that people have been asking for, I mean, I assume since the inception of the app, but since I've been on the app, people have said, well, why can't we, you know, get a physical card? So this past year, the Bunt app was the first to do it. You know, they did, I believe Bowman was the first set they did it on. And it has been a huge undertaking to get to the point where we can do something like that, right? You know, it's the legal teams of our company and Lucasfilm and Disney. So we've got to make sure everything is lined up there. So it was difficult, but it really was rewarding to finally get that out there and see the response that it got for Chrome Galaxy, which we released on Black Friday of last year. And it is a big priority for our division on the whole going forward. So yeah, we'll be seeing more of that and I mean, with more frequency for sure. Obviously there was only one so far, but there is more coming. And then, you know, ideally it becomes even more easily integrated, right? As it stands, those are long odds to hit those boxes, but as we go on, the ideal is that the physical and digital collecting can be a little bit more integrated, looking forward.
Yeah, and taking kind of a page from from your competitor with Upper Deck and how they do and are doing with EPAC, where there is as the license moves over and they've had some sales, I've spent a little time and a little bit of cash over there to kind of try things out, and I've been on EPAC for a while, but yeah, there's no one set way to do it, but I think it is a road that whether it hits from a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if we're both talking about the 20th anniversary of Star Wars Card Trader, I would expect your beard to be a little grayer, and I will have all gray at that point. But it's something that when you're talking about like an app being around for 10 years and seeing, especially, I think getting the bump of with the Topps Disney deal from last year that got Disney and Marvel on the physical side for Topps, which I thought also improved or really gave some oomph back to both Marvel and Disney, because these licenses can kind of come and go, but all these apps work together and influence each other, and they're all like legs of a table. It's like some can hold themselves up more than others, but they, having these all together really strengthens what they can do and what they're able to kind of get away with, or how they influence the design of each other.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of excitement around Marvel and Disney cards in the physical world, especially too, right? So that is really exciting for us, and that. Similarly, right, like what we're doing with what we did with Chrome Galaxy, what we're going to be doing coming up here in April as well, is when we're going to have our next physical prizing integration on Star Wars Card Trader. We're hoping to do something similar on those apps, because there's a ton of excitement around those physical cards.
Before I kind of get into what's going to be, because we do have Celebration coming up, we do have May the 4th coming up, there was one more thing I really wanted to kind of give props to, and it had to do with Slam, of all things, Slam. But
are you you're a Slam collector? I take it from.
Like with all the apps, right now, I'm a product of my generation. It's like, hey, I grew up, listening, watching wrestling on TV, and you get to know and the drama that is. But when you're going across different apps, I wasn't heavy into watching The Walking Dead, but I like getting into these other apps because I like seeing what was happening or how they were handling it, and especially if an app was launching. But when I talked last, we were 2022 Digicon, Slam was brought to a close because the license went away, and so you had that march of where Topps has the archive, and if you're not for the audience, if you're not aware of it, there is an archive app where if the license goes, these cards go. This was the first time the cards came back, and no one was more happier than me, because when an app was kind of working its way to a close, whether it was Kick or Skate or all that, I kind of play with it until I'm like seeing where the mechanics are. But when Slam came back in, my money came back. My cards came back, and I was really curious. I'm like, I'm downloading this right away, and I logged into my account. I'm like, across the apps, and I'm like, and then the cards kind of dribbled back in. I think once I adjusted my filters and an index through, I was like, this was amazing, because we've had these apps for so long, we've had these collections for so long, and to have something come back in, or to go rather than just say, hey, we've got the Slam app and y'all can start from scratch. But if you had that, it does mean that maybe one of these days Huddle comes back, or stuff like that. But it is nice that you go, yeah, this was my stuff. It's really cool. It was over here. I could look at it. I could flip through it. But now it's back, and it made me excited because then Chrome drops right away. I'm like, all right, hey, I've got some coin. I got some built-up coin. They were nice enough to throw out some diamonds, so I was hitting boxes left and right, getting some nice autos and so forth. So it was fun, and like I said, I like going across all the apps. But Slam's re-entry in and how it was done to me was just fantastic. I really appreciated that from Topps D.
Yeah, I mean, I will pass along that message too, because that was a lot of work on our product team's side for months and months, making sure that people's collections would be intact, that everything they would expect to see in their Slam app would still be there, along with this brand new interface, brand new card. So yeah, thank you for that, because it was definitely a lot of work went into making sure that could happen, and it's an important thing for any of these digital apps, right? People do care about their collections, and so it's on us to make sure that their collection is there for them. Even if it is just a digital asset, it's still yours and it's still there.
We are probably coming up to one of the busiest times of this year, with Star Wars Celebration happening in April, with Andor dropping not just an episode out there. It's going to be a little movie for 4 weeks.
That's going to be wild.
It's going to be May the 4th. So how do you even wrap your head around, or you guys must have been, this must have been marked on the calendar last year, as far as like, how are we going to keep up with everything that's happening?
Everything.
How much can you tell me? How much time do you got?
Yeah, well, I mean, basically the quick version is that we're going to be keeping up with everything, but it's been a lot of work. I was just saying to Brandon recently, I was like, man, it really feels like November and December never ended, because obviously we had so much going on at the end of last year, and just the accelerated pace that we have been at for these last few months, trying to make sure that we have everything in line, for Celebration. So we will have some exclusives for people who are able to make it to Tokyo, obviously, in the app, but there will be, most of it is going to be everyone around the world can be collecting, because we are a digital app and not as exclusive as that. We will have some great cards for Celebration, like a Celebration specific set, and then also a lot of other fun stuff happening that weekend. And then, Andor, we are planning to do another premiere watch party for that first episode, first three-part premiere. Which, how are we gonna? Everybody's gonna be in there watching a movie every week. You're exactly right, for a month straight. So we'll have cards again throughout the run of Andor, and then right on the heels of Celebration and Andor is going to be May the 4th, where of course we always have big sets planned there. So I don't really want to give specific sets for most of those dates yet. I'm trying to think of any of those I should be. Not quite yet, but in the coming weeks, we'll see, and we'll likely be announcing a lot of these beforehand for people, just so that everyone's aware of what's coming up in the app.
Where do you, if you don't mind, where do you kind of come into Star Wars? You're the product manager for Star Wars Card Trader, but did you come in with the books? Did you come in with some movies? Did you come in with the TV shows? Where does Martin kind of land?
Yeah, I came in with the movies. I grew up on the original trilogy, obviously, and then saw the prequels in theaters. So that was really I was a casual Clone Wars watcher. I had not seen every Clone Wars episode prior to working this job, but now obviously I'm far more familiar with Rebels, with Clone Wars, with everything that has come through Star Wars. But our team, which is wonderful, we have Lisa and Mike, our producers, and Mike is a huge Clone Wars fan. Lisa knows so much about Rebels. Like we all kind of come at it from different, and Lisa's really the big book fan on our team. She's both the classics and keeping up with High Republic. She's at the forefront of that for us. So the nice thing is that we all have our own entry point into Star Wars, but I definitely came through a pretty classic route of Empire Strikes Back was the best, all growing up and everything.
And so in the app itself, now obviously for work or play, however you want it, what is kind of the things that you like to try to collect whether or not you're doing the mechanic or you just like, I really like how these turned out. I want to make sure I'm completing these sets.
Yeah. The original art is a big one for me. I am also a real big Andor fan these days. So I like a lot of Andor stuff. I don't think it shows. I don't think we lean too far in the Andor direction within our content that we're releasing. But I do chase a lot of Andor characters. My favorite set from last year was our flat files set that we would do that were like, you know, collages of either a particular episode or a particular movie, or, you know, and there was a card in that set that had the one way out, like the jailbreak from Andor. So that's my favorite recent, you know, card. But let me look at some of my favorites here that I've got. Yeah, I mean, Imperial portraits, and I do like some of the weird stuff that we put out there, like the character Geode from High Republic. I'm not sure if you're familiar. We did like a ships and vehicles in the Book of Boba Fett box that had, you know, like the grav scoots. Like I like to be able to collect some of the weird stuff as well. Yeah, I would definitely say original art is at the top for me. And then I love our events. Maybe it's just because I'm constantly like in there, like playing with the mechanics of the event as well. But you know, I'm very involved in collecting all of those that we put out there.
It was so much fun on the 10th anniversary event, you know, because all of a sudden I start getting trades, and I hadn't quite looked at it yet what it was, because I saw them like, okay, there's the March Across, but I kept getting in like, why does this Derek Laufman card keep coming up in trades? And someone I think had gone straight ahead to the Han Solo Legends one. I think that's, gosh, I don't think you get that. I think your first set, or I think it's a set when you first start on and you get it. And the guy was like, I can trade. He put it in the notes.
It was like, for a while, not anymore. You didn't just start, Greg. So.
Oh wow. Okay, all right. Well, it's funny because even it was so long ago, and he was like, I can trade it back to you if you want. And I sit there and hemmed and hawed. I hadn't looked at the event rules, and I was like, you know, it's fine. I've lived my life with this card. It's all right. And then I realized what I'd done later, and I actually went back and I'm like, can you give the card back? Because people were like, you know, like there were a number of folks that were like looking after, and so I think I had 7 of those Derek Laufman ones, and then I think all but 1 left. So at least a number of them did finish the event, which was fun. But I don't think I'd seen a flurry. You know, like there are the workbench ones, and there's plenty of trades, but that I would have to say, I saw new people. I'm like, whoa, okay, that's different. And then a lot of my friends who were, you know, like I said, the casual types, and I was just like, this is what it's all about. It's like, it was easy enough, and I think that goes back to the work that you could probably keep going on and on about the trade mechanics. 1, thank you for bulk trading. But 2,
that's the product team again. I'll pass that along.
But to keep making that, you know, like the one thing that we said before and going, I think those are the 2 things that probably require the most work to tweak, is like making it so you can look at your collections different ways. How do you organize it? How do you make your favorites, whether it's just a long mess of cards, and also how do you make it easier to trade? Those are probably the 2 things I can imagine that are talked about constantly.
Right. Yeah. And I'm glad you enjoyed the anniversary event. You know, that we wanted people to be able to complete it. So, you know, these were not the most rare cards in the app, of course, but we did want to send people kind of on a walk down memory lane there. See 10 years of cards is kind of incredible when you go back and look at some of the stuff that's been put out there. And just, we wanted people to encourage people to interact with their collections, get out there and collect things that maybe they weren't around in the app for, and you know, get trading, because that is such a big part of the app, and helps you become more integrated in the community. And we also have those curated collections that Lisa, she's the one who has spearheaded that initiative. But it's so fun to go through with the contests and you know, like when you're looking at the curated collections that people have made and just see, oh, I remember that one, or what is that set? When did we release that? So it's just so fun to have more opportunities to interact with the cards that you've collected over the years, because people do have such impressive collections in the app.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we're also maybe celebrating 8 years of the last time that the original 77s made their debut in the app, and that marathon cost me an awful lot of money. I kept thinking, I'm like, oh, the 50th anniversary is coming up. All right, maybe if they hold off for another couple years before the greens and the oranges show up, then I go, all right, I'll start saving up for celebration and or when these drop. Because I've had them physically so many times over, and I'm like, but I just can't say no to them. I don't know what it is, but it's, as much as everything else, all the great work that's been done. But it's funny that those will show up every now and then, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh,
but,
totally. You get it too, right? Like you see a lot of nostalgia for those early days of the app too. Like we obviously see that, and it because it was such a different time. Like the whole environment around the app was totally different. This is the first time digitally you're seeing those 77s. You're seeing these cards, this character, this poster. That it's like it's totally different now. But you try to kind of celebrate those cards that people have that affinity for, and that not only have they built up over these 10 years, but with some of those cards it's been 40 years at this point, 40, 42, 43 years. So there's people have a history with these cards that you want to celebrate and honor with the new stuff that we're putting out there.
And even looking at this last base set where a lot of characters, Minweaver, Neo, a lot of these folks, like I said, they haven't gotten their physical cards yet, or it'll be down. But there's the characters when the new preview sets come out, or like usually a couple times a year, I think you'll see the waves come out, and you're just like, these are so great. Is it the Cage Vanda from Jedi Survivor? I was looking at Barriss Offee from Tales of the Empire. And I was like, I really, of course, Pip. How do you not like Pip? A Pip card, thank you. And then the Captain Peavy, by the way, a personal physical collection of mine, because of course that's Adrian Edmondson from The Young Ones.
Yes, yeah.
So I love these characters, but they get their due. They get their Geode gets its spotlight in Star Wars Card Trader, which is so much fun. And so there is that thing. Each new base set over the 10 years we've seen, and that's why you're talking about memory lane. And sometimes my friend will trade me for some of these older base sets, and you go, oh, I remember that. And it was such a distinct difference, one and the other. There has been so much work to make each of these years. These are different cards, but it's fun. And if you character collect, there's so much in the app now, 10 years that you can go after.
Totally. Yeah. And that is really wonderful about the base cards. It's like any base card we put out there, there's probably an audience for, right? And it's like, there's no wrong answers, because people care about different characters for different reasons. And because we're a digital app, we have the capability to provide those cards for them. Right. And so, that is what one really fun thing. And then you look and you see, wow, this many people got collected X number of this card. The monuments we saw, Captain Enoch, right? Monument. So many people went after that, and I didn't expect that. More than the Leia monument for that wave. So just certain surprises and fandoms that you might not expect or that are fun to see.
Kind of just lastly, as far as the app mechanics, I've seen there's been some tweaks to the design in Bunt that I see, like, okay, and I think a lot of times it's whether it's making buttons bigger or smaller. But as far as mechanics in the apps itself, is there anything that could be a yes or no question as far as things coming up that we might see that are different going in the months or years to come, that, hey, we're working on this and it could be something that even makes it a stickier app, or
Yes. I mean, the short answer is yes. The qualifier there is it's people smarter than me who work on that in the UI UX design area. But I know that on the roadmap for this year there's they're planning for some improvements there. So that's as far as they train us on how the new things will look when it's all getting close to it. but they are working on that in ways that I can't quite speak to.
I keep thinking there's also like, is there like a corporate, event or race where all the different product managers of all the different apps get together and I don't know whether it's maybe anything from rock, paper, scissors to like, hey, my app's better than your app. Do you guys have your own kind of internal? This is just an offside question, but do you guys have like there's meetings and then there's meetings and meetings, but do the product managers kind of have this little powwow and, is it?
Yeah. So my role is content product manager. So I'm strictly on the content side, basically nothing technical outside of building the cards in the app, but, not spearheading any technical changes to the app. And yes, I mean, we get together, we're meeting shortly after this, the content product managers, just to, we talk about best practices, successes, new things we've tried, new events, like how, so there's like a brainstorm element and like a reflecting on what we've been doing element, but we definitely talk a lot and like share successes and learnings with each other, which, really helps because. But the other thing is that each app is so different in its audience and like the sports apps have contests or Bunt has contests, whereas that's not part of what we do. But we have this like character collecting element that in the horde collecting that isn't quite as prevalent in some other apps. So yeah, it's really interesting that not everything would translate 100% across apps, and everything is in a different place. But it is great to get to talk to the other content product managers and see what they're doing.
And just like you guys don't live in a bubble, our collectors don't live in a bubble. It's just 10 years of having this collectible be with you 24/7. You don't have to be in the app 24/7. We're not go out and touch grass.
No, we do condone that. Don't sleep. Stay in the app.
Fair. That's fair.
The official line. No.
But it's great to celebrate the success of this app. It's just something that when you start getting into the years and you're seeing these and you're going like, yeah, it's not just a fly by night. This is something that is legit. It keeps evolving. It is growing with Star Wars, with the fans, and it's just been fun. And I'm glad that we had a chance to sit down. I wanted to say thank you to Gino, as well as all the hard team, Brendan and Evie and Edwin and all these folks who've worked on the app and Lisa and everybody. It's been real fun. It's your job, but it's our fun. But I just wish you like success, especially during the busy next couple of months and going forward.
Right. No, thank you so much, Greg. I really appreciated this. This was a lot of fun, and I love talking Star Wars Card Trader, of course, because it is so much of my life and has been for so long. So it's great to talk to someone who cares as much about the app as we do. And yeah, I will definitely. I think the best part of this job is working with the team that we work with. They all love Star Wars. They all love making these cards, and they're just great people to work with. So I will pass along your appreciation as well, because definitely they're the ones who make this go. So thank you so much for having me.
No problem, Martin. We're definitely going to have to get you back for a separate Geo discussion. I could see that happening. That's a good at least 20, 30 minutes, and my friend Greg Cass would love.
There's much to be said.
But I will let you get back to it. If you ever have anything to say and all that, and you guys want to talk, please feel free. You have an open invitation to come back. Send anybody you want, any emissary. Be like, you talk to him this time. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to check out, refuel my ship, prepare for my immediate departure.
Once again, I want to thank my guest Martin Nolan from Top Star Wars Card Trader for being on the program to find out a little more about the 10th anniversary, a lot of the history that's kind of gone into the app, and what's coming up, because we've got a big month or two ahead of us. It's crazy. But I just want to thank, once again, everybody at Topps Digital, Gino, Brendan, all the design team, all the folks, Lisa, everybody who put their heart and soul into this. to make something that we have a lot of fun with. And I know that Card Squadron out there, y'all have been great, and it's been really fun to get to celebrate this with you, to bring this interview so that we get to find a little bit more about the apps that we kind of go into daily, the digital collections that we have, that we carry with us. I'd forgotten to ask him, but I did get a chance to ask him off mic. Yes, Star Wars Card Trader, I think himself and Lisa, they will be going to Star Wars Celebration. So if you are going to Japan, you're definitely going to have to stop by the Topps booth. Maybe somebody can pick me up some swag on the way back. No pressure. But it's going to be fun to see them there. They were at Anaheim, and it was fun to kind of have that booth there and all the experiences and get to meet them in person. So if you are going to Star Wars Celebration Japan, definitely check them out and let me know. Send me a selfie. Send me some pics. I'd love to see what the booth looked like and what Celebration is like there. All right. Well, we've got a lot of stuff coming up in the feeds. It's a really busy time, but it's what's fun doing the show. All right, I'm going to let Card Squadron take it out, and we'll talk to you soon.
The Rebel Base Card Podcast focuses on cards, collecting, and the Star Wars community, and appreciates you coming along for the ride.
If you have any feedback for this episode, you can reach out to the program in a number of ways. You can leave a comment on the Instagram post for this episode. You can also DM Greg on Instagram at Rebel Base Card.
Make sure to also follow the Rebel Base Card on Twitter and Facebook at Rebel Base Card. If you want, you can send an email to greg@rebelbasecard.com.
And you can find show notes for this and all episodes on the website rebelbasecard.com. In the Star Wars Card Trader app and just about every other one, you can find Greg at CornFedTech.
The Rebel Base Card uses the hashtag Card Squadron as a way to alert friends about cool cards and recent drops in the galaxy far, far away. It's a great way to bring our community a little bit closer together and help one another finish our sets in time. We collect, communicate, and commiserate. Well, at least when we run out of credits or crystals to spend on our digital collections. Join the fun, even if all the other cool squadron names were already taken. And remember, we collect as one, and would be honored if you join us.
And if you are a sketch card artist, or Star Wars artist or collector, cosplayer, and want to talk about your work, your craft or passion, drop Greg a line. I'm sure he'd love to hear your story. You can also help the show by leaving a comment or review on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you got this episode.
Otherwise, the mission is clear. Keep those cards out of the hands of the Empire, and the Rebel Base Card will return soon.
This podcast is not affiliated in any way with Topps, Disney, or Star Wars, nor is it endorsed by Disney or Lucasfilm, and is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. All names and sounds and any other related items are properties of their respective trademarks and or copyright holders here in the U.S. and abroad. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com.
That's it.